Greetings and welcome to the home slice. This is a standard intro. If you already know what's up with my 40mm manila rope testing, the ANDE rope test, then you can skip to this time listed on screen. This is where the actual edge test begins. If you haven't been here before, then you've caught me in the middle of a testing series where I'm taking Victorinox knives because they're simple steel that's mainly just steel. There's not a bunch of extra alloys and carbide things going on in them. And I'm testing what different sharpening stones do to them. I'm testing fine, medium, and coarse stones individually. Then I'm taking the best from those and I'm making what's called a dual grit edge. If you're new to the channel, a dual grit edge is where you sharpen one side coarse or medium and the other side of the edge you sharpen fine. It has some really interesting characteristics. Usually it creates an aggressive edge that lasts longer than it normally would with either coarse or fine, with some exceptions, which we're testing to find out. Anyway, my test consists of, I've got a little goofy rig that I slice through a 1 centimeter thick sisal rope, and it's on a 45-degree wedge. It's intended to transfer that force down, and then I measure how many kilograms of pressure it took to slice through the rope while holding the rope vertical. That's intended to take forward motion and quantify how much pressure it took to slice through. This gives you some rough idea of edge aggression. The next test is to cut through a 40mm thick manila rope, and then I test on a BESS machine tester to test how keen and nice the edge stayed. I do that until it's over 400 grams on the BESS tester, checking with microscope and checking to see when it loses shaving capability in between tests. After 3, I will hammer the edge into a pine piano leg, and that's just to see if any of the edges break on impact. There are certain sharpening methods I've found that create an edge that's not as robust to impact tasks, and I want to kind of weed those out because for a working edge, I want it to be reasonably durable. Anyway, that's what we're testing for today. In just a second, we'll skip right over to the test footage, and I will let you know what the finishing stone that we're actually testing was. Greetings guys, we're back with another test of an edge made on the Spyderco UltraFine, but I figured when some of them came in under 100 BESS from my strop testing, I should test those edges to see if there's a performance boost. Some of the tests came back 95, this test came back 98 grams. I figured I should compare these to the other edges that we've got around 100 BESS, including the Sharpening Glass 8K and the Japanese Natural. I froze it at the 2.9 max reading that I got to there, but I have had a bit of a misfire. I forgot to put the non-slip pad under this cutting board, and so I guess you got to take this aggression number with a grain of salt. Upon reflection, I should have redone the whole thing, but I didn't think of it at the time. Anyway, this is what this highly stropped edge looks like under the microscope. I would say that it's of equal beauty to the Sharpening Glass 8000 grit that I tested last time. There's a little pocket of angle variation there, though you can see that the stropping has reached all the way out to the apex. And on that note, you can actually see in the lighting that the high amount of stropping has produced a small amount of convexity in the edge, where the reflection of light changes to a darker color out towards the apex. Motors through on the first pass through the ANDE rope pretty well, although it didn't feel as aggressive as the Sharpening Glass or the Japanese Natural, and has come to a fairly average reading for the first pass of 346 grams on the BESS machine. I wanted to test this because I wanted to see if getting under that 100 mark dramatically changed the results of the Spyderco UltraFine, which I am very familiar with at this point. However, I came to find that it's fairly similar to the ordinary, less stropped Spyderco UltraFine edge, being slightly more stable and slightly less aggressive. We've passed over the 400 mark here at pass number 3. 3 passes is what I usually get with the Spyderco UltraFine. So stropping a lot looks like it isn't detrimental to how long the edge retention lasts. I'll freeze this aggression number for you guys. It takes 9.8 kilos of brute force and a couple of tries to get through that 1 centimeter sisal rope. Quite difficult to muscle through it, giving the unsurprising result that when you highly strop low carbon steels on a fine edge, you lose a lot of your slicing aggression. However, you can see that if you start at that very keen score of under 100 BESS, you can avoid losses of aggression that are quite as dramatic as some of the water stones which I've used, leaving more of like a medium aggression lost sort of reading. The edge looks pretty good, although I would say it actually looks as if it has undergone more bending, which is evidenced by the little reflections out on the edge, just slightly more than some of the recent edges, like the Sharpening Glass 8000 grit. Here we have the toughness test, and after the 9 strikes into the piano leg, we get an amazing crushing record of 183, and then I realize, the best pedestal is actually sitting up on the rim, so that was a totally false reading. Anyway, if we get things set back up to check out what the post-baton BESS is, we find that it has increased by about 11 grams to a reading of 443, which is right about what we would expect, and it has not lost much, probably due to being fairly well cleaned up in the stropping phase. Overall, it's a fairly well-performing edge and would probably be good in the kitchen where abrasion isn't as much of an issue. If you want to check out my test of the Sharpening Glass 8K, which is my last test, I'll put it on screen now. For the rest of you, I'll say, hey, peace out from the home slice. You guys take care. Bye.